Seeing goblins. Appreciating goblins. Succubus with goblins.
And we don't want no problems. Okay, you're a go. What's a go?
Hello there.
Get ready to rumble. Jaden, I've been watching the Creed movies, man. The Creed movies, because I like the Rocky movies. I never watched the Creed movies because I was like, is it going to be too different? Is it going to be too different? But no, I've only watched Creed and Creed 2. I haven't watched Creed 3 yet, but I'm digging it.
I wasn't sure if they made 2 or 3. Is 2 the one where he faces Drago? Like
Yes,
Drago's son?
Victor Drago.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't seen 3 either. Creed is good though.
Yeah, I really like their album Human Clay. Like it's a really good album.
Yeah, for sure, dude.
What's up, everybody? Look, if you've been living under a rock, you haven't noticed. If you haven't been living under a rock, then you know that I had some food poisoning, and I also had some issues last week. So I haven't uploaded in a hot minute. It's been about a little over a week, but that's all being rectified. This week, I recorded 3 videos earlier today that I've been kind of editing throughout the day that I'll be dropping over the next few days. And we got Podgoblins coming at you hot, hard, and steamy.
Yes, sir.
So what the hell? So with that said, Jaden, how's it going, man? How you doing? How's it hanging?
Still hanging pretty low, but yeah, it's going all right. It's we're at the end of the semester. I'm graduating soon, so there's a lot of stress at the moment. But
yeah,
it's always good to hop on here and bullshit about some horror movies. You know it. Nah, dude.
Yeah.
How about you? You've been good? Besides,
dude, yeah, you've been great. You know, custody battle, food poisoning. Yeah. Honestly, life's awesome. No,
yeah.
I mean, I'm alive. The food poisoning didn't kill me. But yeah, you know, today's May the 4th. So if you guys are Star Wars fans, this is dropping tomorrow. So, but if you're Star Wars fans, I hope that you guys watch a Star Wars movie and watch any Star Wars movie except The Rise of Skywalker. And I'll accept it. Any movie aside from that. But yeah, you know, I'm all right. I'm alive. I'm here. Ready to get going on this, but I want to let the audience know first and foremost, because I feel like it's very important that they know this. I wanted to give you guys Nightmare on Elm Street. I, being the man of the people, was like, we need to do Nightmare on Elm Street. We got to hit one of these heavy hitters. And Jaden goes, but my pussy hurts. And I was like, all right. So Jaden needs a refresher on a couple of the movies in the series, namely 4 through 6. Don't know how you're not familiar with those ones. Maybe 5, I get it, but 4 rules, 6 terrible. So you should know enough. But regardless, we're gonna hold off on Nightmare, and we're gonna do erectile dysfunction today, right? That's what we're covering, erectile dysfunction.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Also known as Evil Head.
Yes.
No, guys,
Evil Head franchise. Actually, as I named this Evil Podgoblin Head, just for the recording though. It's not going to go like that on YouTube. But yeah. Man. So we're going to do Evil Dead. You excited? You excited to go out to the cabin?
I am, man. This kind of feels perfect since we're going into summertime. This is like a nice franchise. It's only like 5 movies, not too daunting. A lot of rabid Evil Dead fans out. There's not anything coming out soon, so we kind of thought like maybe in this middle spot between Rise and whenever the next one comes out, this could be a good stopgap. But yeah, I'm excited. These are some fun movies.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny. This is an interesting franchise, man, because like I think that most people would agree this is one of the most consistent. I haven't heard really many arguments to the contrary. I would also think that most people would agree that we should have gotten more. This is a franchise that doesn't know how to capitalize on a good thing. Yeah. Insanely frustrating, but is what it is. Yeah, this is a franchise I hold near and dear to my heart. I love this one. I've loved Evil Dead for a long time. My ranking of it by the end here will probably be surprising to some people. I'm sure Jaden's will too. But that's the beauty of this series and in series like this, like Scream, another really consistent franchise where it's just like, no matter what you're ranking, you're going to piss somebody off because they're going to be like, oh no, what are you talking about? This one's better than this one. And I'm just like, I mean, honestly, in your opinion, but like you can.
Shut the fuck up. Do you know what shut the fuck up means?
And I mean that, with love and sincerity. How you want to tackle this, man? Obviously, we're going to start with the first movie. Why don't you take us off, man? Like, take us off like your underwear every night when you get home from school. Because we know you're always beating it, bro. So just
always, dude. Right before we recorded. No, this
oh, nice.
The original 1981 Evil Dead. This is an interesting one. So this is one of those movies, like one of the first ones I saw when I got back into horror. And when I first saw it, I wasn't completely in love, but I don't think I was used to, like, I wasn't able to appreciate cheaper, low-budget films back then. So upon a rewatch around 3 or 4 years ago, I was like, this movie is so good, dude. Like, for what they had at the time, it's like, it's got that, like, zany comedy, like, a little bit, the stuff you get later in the sequels, which I like, but it didn't go too over the top for me. But I also find it to be maybe the creepiest of all these movies. Like, those effects are gnarly. The deadite in the basement is so, like, disturbing looking. Like, that thing freaked me out. Like, I had nightmares thinking about that. But I find the side characters, like, pretty, like, they're likable, I think, and we'll talk about 2 after, but I think they're more likable than the ones in that movie.
Do you remember the first time you saw this movie?
Around 2019. So I would have been 18. That's when I first saw this one. Yeah, I feel like that was like it's kind of crazy I hadn't seen it, but I guess like Evil Dead isn't super huge or wasn't, so maybe it does make sense. But I'm glad I've seen it now. I think this original is one of the best low budget horror films of the 80s. But yeah.
Yeah, so for me it was funny because like growing up, like my uncle, he would always say, "This is my boomstick." I'm like, dude, what is this dude talking about? I had no idea what it was in reference to, and I remember asking my mom once, I'm like, dude, what is that? She's like, oh, it's this movie called Army of Darkness and, Evil Dead and blah, blah, blah. And I didn't get into Evil Dead until after I got into Halloween. Halloween is really what started like my journey with horror movies in general. Mm-hmm. And that was at like 10 or 11 when I actually started like collecting them and buying the movies. And I got into Evil Dead. I remember watching it for the first time, and I found it to be like really unsettling. Like it's one of those movies that, yes, super low budget. And shout out to Ted Raimi and Sam Raimi. This thing was a labor of love. I mean, it's very, very obvious. They had done a short film before this called Into the Woods. And you can find it on YouTube, guys, if you want to see it. And that was almost like their pitch for this movie. And they strung together what they could to put a feature-length movie out there. And limitations and all, I was just like, this thing is solid. Like, it creeped me out. The claymation looking thing, Yeah. I don't know if it was actually claymation. It probably was, or stop motion, whatever it was. Dude. Yeah. Okay, that creeped me the fuck out. Like, I'm just gonna put it on Front Street. She's like putting her, just like going back and forth with her head, and she's like, ooh, and like, I'm like, dude, I see that thing, I'm shitting my pants, like 100%, food poisoning or not. And by the way, no, I didn't shit my pants, guys. And it was just like one of those. That scene in particular stuck out to me. It was a movie that. There's a lot of horror franchises where you can go back to the first movie. And even if you love it or you just find that it's fine, you can see the shell of what it's going to become there. and you're like, oh, they got something here. And like you can tell that with the Evil Dead. Obviously we'll get to the second one in a few minutes, but like I just really remember gravitating towards this movie, and I ended up picking up every other one of them on DVD and was watching all of them. And I was a senior in high school. I had a girlfriend that would spend the night at my house on the weekends. And I mean, I would put this movie on, or Evil Dead 2 on every night when we would go to sleep, like just as like background noise.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of people know how deep my love for Evil Dead is, because it gets overshadowed a lot by Halloween, but Evil Dead is right up there for me. Like it really, really is. It means a lot to me. But yeah, the makings of something special with this first movie. And again, I cannot stress enough, and it cannot go without mentioning how impressive it is for the little money and little time they had to make this thing. So, but you know, just starting off before we get to the end where we give our rankings and our opinions on each movie writ large, this is an impressive one. So, out of 5 stars, I'm gonna give it 4. I don't think that it has the shell of what's great about Evil Dead there, but it hasn't fully realized it. So I'm gonna give it 4. Where are you gonna go?
Yeah, I think I'm right with you at 4. Very good start to a franchise, but I do think it gets better later on. Real quick before we move on, I want to ask your opinion, because the original Evil Dead has one of the most controversial scenes within a major horror film, with the tree scene. Was that something that bothered you watching it, or is it something that you're like fine with, or something you think adds to the movie? I just know a lot of people like feel weird about that.
Yeah, so here's the thing. It has never been something that's really bothered me. Now, before anybody freaks out, I'm not a fan of SA in movies. I rarely, if ever, find it necessary. I know sometimes it can serve the plot. That's fine. I don't need to see it in excess. It's just something that I don't think any human being is wired to watch something like that and be like, cool. So that's one thing that is like, you know, Rob Zombie's Halloween, the breakout scene in the director's cut, not a fan. I Spit on Your Grave. I think it's a good movie, and I like when she gets to the revenge aspect, but I love the remake of Last House on the Left. Hate that scene. But the Evil Dead is different because it's a lot more heavily implied than explicitly shown. It's also an inanimate object. Like, it's not a person. And it oddly doesn't feel sexual. Like it feels like possession. Like, and it's the same thing with The Exorcist when Reagan has the crucifix. I've never gotten a sexual vibe from that. So although it's not something that I'm like, woohoo, yeah, show me more. It doesn't bother me. Like, it doesn't really get under my skin in the way that legitimate like SA does in movies. So no, it doesn't bother me in this movie. But where do you stand on it?
Yeah, it never really bothered me either. And I think a problem with a lot of 70s, 80s horror films are they would use sexual assault and they'd kind of like fetishize it in a way. Like the scenes with everything happening on screen, they just like perpetuate it. They make it like 5 minutes long. They try to like draw it out for everyone. And it's hard to watch. Whereas like I feel like if you imply something, like you can have that in a movie, but imply it more than just show it straight up for 5 minutes to try to be a sick weirdo or whatever. Evil Dead though, yeah, I think because it's a tree, and because they imply most of everything that's happening, it works for what it is. I don't know if you've seen Street Trash from '87. That is like the worst of that kind of stuff. Like that's pretty excessive and brutal.
It's very excessive. It's just I've heard the opposition arguments to this, guys. Trust me, I have, from Christian no less. This kind of stuff doesn't bother him, and because the way he explains it is like it's meant to shock. Like I want to be shocked. I get that. That's just not how I want to be shocked, I guess.
Yeah.
Like it's not my thing. And it's never going to be my thing. But yeah, it doesn't bother me in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
again, it's a fucking tree. What are we talking about? It's a tree. So yeah, so we both give it 4 stars. We both think that the pearl clutching over the tree scene is overrated. And then we get to Evil Dead 2. Jaden, I want to know when you first saw it. I want to know what you thought of it. I want to know what you think of it now.
Okay. So Evil Dead 2 was actually like a double feature with the original when I first saw them. I kind of felt like, so this was before I actually knew Army of Darkness was an Evil Dead film. I had always heard the name of that film, and we'll talk about Army of Darkness. I do think that is an issue with the film. But I never knew that, so I kind of just wanted to watch Evil Dead 1 and 2, and I watched them back to back. And I think that was almost a detriment, because Evil Dead 2, a significant portion of it is basically remaking the original film. Now, it does some fun twists on it, but watching it right after that original, it kind of soured this one a bit for me, because then that original feels more unique. Whereas like Evil Dead 2 does have some great stuff in the latter half, but that first half is it's a pretty standard remake besides a couple of updated special effects and stuff. And I actually think the characters in the remade portion are worse. Like the portrayals of them are worse, and you kind of buy their character less. But I just rewatched this a year and a half ago with my girlfriend, and I like it a lot. Girlfriend. I like it a lot more now.
It's not June yet. He's got to wait till next month so he can tell all you guys.
Then the reveal. No, I like Evil Dead a lot more now. I still think I like the original better, but Evil Dead 2, I think once I rewatched it, all that fun stuff that comes in the second half, I could appreciate it more because I knew what I was getting into, and watching it separated from the first movie made me appreciate it more too. I'm still not a big fan of the remake portion of it. I just think it's kind of the original done a bit worse. But is it Henrietta? Is that the?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Henrietta's awesome. That's one of the best Deadites for sure. The whole climax of this film is batshit crazy, and I love it. The effects rule, but yeah, and also Ash just beating the hell out of himself it's a blast. I love it so much. So yeah, what about you?
So my introduction to Evil Dead 2 was Bravo's 100 Scariest Movie Moments when I was a kid.
Nice.
And they had the moment of Ash in his hand. And I was like, even watching it like as a kid, I was like, well, this isn't scary. Like if the list was like most iconic, like I guess I could hear that argument, but like this isn't scary. This was before I saw the Evil Dead. And then I ended up seeing Evil Dead 2 pretty much in really close succession to the first movie. And I bought that on DVD. And from the first time I watched it, it was my favorite of the two. From the first time I watched it, I felt like I agree with you that it can be a bit jarring at the beginning because it's confusing. Like, let's just call a spade a spade. It's kind of confusing. You're watching this beginning and you're like, didn't I already see this? Like,
yeah.
And I understand why they redid it because they were like, well, not a lot of people saw that first movie. We didn't have the money. We didn't have, like, they wanted to recap the first movie basically. So like when anytime anybody says like, oh, Evil Dead 2 is just a remake. No, it's not. It is not a remake. They are retelling that first movie in the beginning. Yes, absolutely. But it's not a remake. So that was a little jarring. But once the movie gets going, I was like, this is what I meant with the first movie. When I said that with the first movie, you could see the shell of what Evil Dead would become there. And Evil Dead 2 takes it and I think just runs with it. It's got the perfect mix of comedy of absolute insanity that makes no sense. I mean, when Ash is laughing and the lamp is laughing and the deer is laughing and everything's just like, whoa, like
Yeah.
no sense whatsoever. But at the same time, it does, because it's supposed to, I mean, it feels like another dimension, because it kind of is. Like, it's this dude's going insane. These demons are driving him insane. You've got the scene with the hand. You've got the scene at the end with the fucking like portal tree monster shit. Like,
Yeah.
Henrietta for me, for the longest time, was the best Deadite in this series. Like, and that's Ted Raimi, y'all. Gross, funny. My palms got sweaty the first time I watched this movie when he's trying to get up out of the cellar and Henrietta's just like slowly coming. I'm like, no, dude, I would literally like die. I think of fright. Like, I would just shit my pants and die.
Yeah.
I just think Evil Dead 2 takes everything the first movie did. It still has the horror. It still has suspense, and it ups the ante with walking that perfect line of comedy and insanity, while also still having enough sincerity in the fact that it's a horror film. And I think it just does it incredibly well. I also think that Bruce Campbell is 100 times better in this movie. It's not even close. Like,
For sure.
even if you like the first movie more, he was very raw in that movie. In this movie, he really feels like he's taking the role and just like he's going in. So Evil Dead 2 for me, I mean, it should be no surprise after I just glazed poetic all over all of it, that this movie is a perfect 5 out of 5 for me. I think that this movie is everything that Evil Dead should be. And I adore the movie. But I don't know. Let's hear your ranking and why you're wrong.
I think I'm gonna go with a 4.
Rating, not ranking. My bad.
Rating, right? I think I'm gonna go with a 4 here. I think years past it might have been a 3.5 or even a 3, but I have loved it more as time goes on, and I'm sure upon another rewatch I will love it even more than I do now. But as of right now, it's sitting at a 4. I know. I'm sorry, bud.
You know,
4 is still good. It's a good rating.
Anyway, all right. So we got 2 movies into this series so far. And for the few of you that are watching, because Evil Dead is just not something that ever gets clicks, and I don't know why. So I'm going to have to go really hard with this thumbnail to try to get some eyes on this thing.
Cool.
But I want you guys to be sounding off below too when we're talking about these movies, telling us what you think of each movie, what you would rate it. And then when we get to the end and we do our ranking, I want to hear your guys' down below as well.
For sure.
So then we get to Army of Darkness, Jaden. Now, before you take the reins with this one, I just want to say, as an older man, you know, myself, got 6 years on you.
Yeah.
Army of Darkness in the 90s, like, talking to my uncle, my mom, my older brother, everybody knew this movie in the 90s, which is crazy because it flopped. Yeah. Don't understand how everybody became so familiar with it, but nobody went and fucking saw it.
Yeah.
What a turn of events for the Evil Dead franchise, though. So, Jaden, why don't you walk us through your experience with this movie?
Yeah, dude. So Army of Darkness, this was the last of the original 3 that I had needed to see. And I didn't see it until I picked up the Scream Factory 4K back in like 2022 or whenever they put that out. But I absolutely loved it. Army of Darkness, dude, it's like, it's more a comedy with horror elements, but I love it so much for that. And I just think like this is like peak Bruce Campbell. I think this is peak Sam Raimi in terms of comedy. The set pieces are beautiful. The effects are fantastic. The beginning with the creature in the well is so like gross and awesome. Yeah, dude. Army of Darkness, man. It's like, it kind of reminds me of like those like super fun, like, it almost feels like a family movie to me at times because of how goofy it is. Like, it has some gross effects, but like the whole like fighting the skeletons and then the dancing mini ashes and stuff, like all that kind of feels like a zany 90s family comedy to me, and I like that, like a Small Soldiers or something.
That movie
yeah, dude,
rules.
it does. I fucking love Small Soldiers. But yeah, this is I'll tell you my ranking of it later, but yeah. I'm gonna glaze this movie.
Was it at all jarring for you though? Like the first time you saw it, was it like, whoa, this is different?
Yeah. I think because I knew of it going into it, no. Like, I knew I had done my research a little bit. Not like research, I guess, but like I had seen videos talking about this movie. I didn't know everything that happened in it, but I knew the vibe I was getting into. And a lot of people say it in a negative way, that it's like too comedic, but I thought the exact opposite, personally.
Yeah, so Army of Darkness is an interesting one because for people my mom's generation, like I said, they all knew this movie. They'd quote it. I think it's kind of what, and I know some people are going to push back and be like, oh, no. Let's be honest here. I think this is the movie that more or less made Bruce Campbell. I really do. He would go on to do, obviously, much larger roles. And 30 years later now, he is a household name. But I think this was the movie that kind of put him on the map. And not even at the time, really, because it flopped for its... But I mean, it didn't make no money, but it had a higher budget. Universal really thought they had something here. And they were disappointed because they gave it a lot of money. Was it Universal? It was Universal.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, it was Universal. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was Universal. It was Dino De Laurentiis. No, I don't think Dino was still in. Whatever. Regardless, so for me, going into it, I knew that everybody was aware of this movie. I didn't really know why. I heard a couple quotes here and there, and I had been told, in fairness, kind of what to expect. That this was going to be different from what I had seen in the previous two movies. More so in line with Evil Dead 2 on crack than The Evil Dead.
Yeah.
And I would say that's an apt comparison. Evil Dead 2
sure.
on crack. Now, granted, if you go back and watch Evil Dead 2, guys, obviously this is foreshadowed at the end of this movie and then just outright, like, he gets dumped in this situation. So you would have known going into Army of Darkness, okay, well, this is a sequel. This is where we're picking up. So it wasn't really like jarring.
Yeah.
But I guess the tone was a little bit jarring because they pretty much abandon all horror in this movie. You got the pit witch, pit bitch, whatever you want to call her. That's kind of creepy. She's freaky.
Yeah.
But a lot of this movie is slapstick and action. That was the point of this movie. And if you know anything about Sam Raimi, you know he does that really well. He loves to do that. So it's perfectly in line with him. But it was surprising. It was definitely surprising to me. I didn't think they were going to go that hard. Having said that, I loved this movie the first time I watched it. I know that there are like two kinds of Evil Dead fans. There's Evil Dead fans that much prefer the Evil Dead, that style, that tone. And then there's fans that are like, oh no, it's Army of Darkness or nothing. If it's not like Army of Darkness, I don't want it.
Yeah.
Which will be interesting when we get to the next couple movies. But I remember just really liking this movie. I like how different it was. It felt, although so tonally different from the first two, it still felt, I don't know, kind of, it just felt in line. Like it felt like I could watch the second one and then watch this one, and I wasn't like, bull, you know, like,
yeah.
I don't know why I did a Hank Hill there. So for me, it was a great watch. It was a great time. I love Evil Ash. Yeah, I love the fight at the end. Like I love it. It's so over the top and goofy, and I love it at the same time.
For sure.
That like demon pterodactyl bird thing is like what? That's actually kind of creepy. Like not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I think this movie is a blast. Like I really do think that any other takeaway from this movie aside from that it's like super fun, I can't get behind personally. I think it's super fun. I think it's great. But then as the years went on, man, I'll be honest with you, I started to fall out of love with it a little bit, which is to say that I don't love it, because I do love it. But I think that once the initial enjoyment of the slapstick and the insanity kind of wore off, I was like, this is fun, but like, I don't know if it has as much of a lasting impact on me as some of the other movies in this series, for different reasons, of course, because they're very different movies. So as I sit here today, I'm going to give Army of Darkness a 4. And I'm just going to let you guys know from the top here, there's going to be no movie in this series I give lower than a 4. When I said that this series is one of the most consistent, actually, I would argue is the most consistent, because I think every movie in this series is better than Scream 4. And so I'm just going to say, like, none of them are going to get lower than 4 stars for me. So this is a 4-star movie. But what about you? What say you?
This is my 5-star movie in the franchise. I love this movie so much. I don't think there's anything I dislike about it. I love that it sets up the 3 Necronomicons. I think that's so cool. I do want to ask you though, do you think that, because this is kind of what I always got, do you think that the name kind of screwed them over? Like in terms of big box
the name
office?
And the poster. I think the poster too.
Yeah.
I don't think the poster would have told most people that weren't ardent fans of the first 2 movies that this was an Evil Dead movie. Like, I think both screwed them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, man, I don't know. This is pretty great movie. I never, like, I guess I could kind of see why people don't love it if they don't love comedy, but like anybody who thinks this movie is trash or shit, like,
They're wrong.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Yeah.
It's okay, Jaden. We have a podcast now. We can just say you're wrong.
You're wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Let's
Well, before we get into the next era of Evil Dead movies,
Okay.
we should probably preface by saying it truly is a new era of Evil Dead movies. We would go 20 years before we saw Evil Dead come back. There was discussions over the years of a Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, which actually got turned into a comic series. And there was one meeting that actually got held with New Line, with Bruce Campbell there. And he said, yeah, can't wait to kick both their asses. And New Line was like, that's not going to happen. And he was like, I'm not interested, basically. Now, I don't think that's the only reason it didn't get made. That's some self-aggrandizing by Bruce Campbell for sure. But it is true. That meeting did happen. He did say that. But there wasn't even really a lot of stops and starts with the series. Raimi had started to go into bigger things. Obviously, the Spider-Man trilogy, like Bruce Campbell was doing other things. Army of Darkness ended in a way where, like, you didn't have to make a sequel. You could have, but you didn't have to.
right.
At that time, too, it was pretty common fare to have trilogies. So the fact that it was like a trilogy was like, okay, you know, we did what we had to do. People are going and doing their careers. And then when the boom happened in the late 2000s, early 2010s, when you had the remakes, the reboot craze, where we were bringing everything back from the dead that was once a viable property, it was eventually going to come time for Evil Dead to be a part of that. And in April of 2013, Evil Dead came out. Not The Evil Dead, Evil Dead. Jaden, I want to hear your experience with this movie.
All right, man. Yeah. So Evil Dead 2013. I remember seeing the marketing for this movie like everywhere. Like I saw the commercials, but I wasn't really seeing movies in theaters at that time in general. So I never actually went to go see it. My mom didn't really have any interest, and she's usually one I saw horror movies with back then. So I actually didn't catch it until pretty recently again when a physical media 4K got put out for it. And that's when I finally checked it out. I want to say 2023. And I don't love it. And I know people give me shit for that because it's one of the most beloved in the franchise.
People? Who are these people you speak of?
You, everyone
Continue.
in the comments. Yeah. I realize I'm on an island in not loving this movie. I don't hate it either. I think there's some good elements. I do think that the actual Deadite designs are pretty creepy. the climax, you can't shit on that. I mean, that's awesome. But I don't know, man. Like, I think after I saw Rise, especially, and I like the characters in Rise so much, and the characters in this, besides Mia, I don't really care about any of them. I think they're all kind of either douchey or bland. It has one of the dumbest characters in a horror film ever. And as you said previously, like, they kind of give him his comeuppance, but it's still like pretty aggravating to watch. But I'm kind of like in the middle with this one. I don't dislike it. I don't necessarily like it that much, but I think it's fine.
All right. So, Evil Dead 2013 came out a month before I graduated high school. I went and saw this movie in theaters, and it totally gagged my dick off. I was astonished by the movie I had watched. And I just want to say, Evil Dead 2013, it did the only thing that it could do. In bringing this franchise back, how do you make this believable? How do you make this for modern audiences? Because if you tried to bring it back in the same style and tone as Army of Darkness, it was going to be a non-starter. Not at that period of time. The early 2010s was when we were really getting these movies where we're remaking or rebooting, and we're making them grittier. We're making them more violent. We're making them more over the top. And that was, I hate this term, but it's true, a product of the torture porn era, as they called it. So every movie was trying to up the ante. So Evil Dead tried to do the same thing. And it did. Look, I have said that aside from Ash, Mia is the greatest character in the Evil Dead franchise, period, point blank. I think Jane Levy gave everything to this role, and it's the reason why she, after filming, she was like, I don't want to do horror anymore, because they put her through the ringer, man. And if you watch some of the making of stuff, you can tell she's miserable. And some of it, I mean, she's miserable, but she did it for the love of the game. And I appreciate that. This movie took the concept of what nowadays is very common, of like possession almost. And it's just different. It's not like a Conjuring. It's not like a Paranormal Activity or an Exorcist. It's like these Deadites, just like the previous Deadites, they have so much personality. Obviously, specifically Mia, because she is the one that you focus on. And she is awesome. The makeup's awesome. The shit she says is just deranged. Like truly deranged. The stuff she does to herself, disgusting. The effects in this movie, some of the kills, it has some of the most memorable kills in the entire series. I love the way the movie looks. Fede Alvarez, like, this movie was all I needed to see at the beginning of his career to be like, this guy is going to go places. And he has since then. And I'm super happy for him. And you can just see it all on display in this movie. I think that it's not a comedy at all, but there's moments that you laugh. And it's like an uncomfortable laughter. Like when the nurse friend pisses herself, when she's like coming toward the dude after she like cut her face. I kind of laugh because I'm like, oh, she peed her pants, but it's like an uncomfortable laugh. Or when Mia's like, why don't you come down here and let me suck your cock, pretty boy? I laugh every time. But so there's still comedy to be had here if you're messed up in the head. For sure. But it does everything that a movie at this time needed to do. And it does it so well, in my opinion. I think that Evil Dead is just, from this era, I think it's one of the best, if not the best, of that decade. It's right up there. I mean, it's genuinely, to me, that good. Yes, Lou Taylor Pucci's character is an idiot, but yes, it was intentional. Now, to your credit, the two things can be true. That it was intentional, but it just pissed me off. And I get that. He pisses me off too. but I get to watch this guy get put through the ringer the entire movie. And also, on top of that, he seemed like the only one there, aside from like Mia, that actually like had good intentions, wasn't an asshole. Like, it seemed like everybody else was in it for themselves or wasn't as good of a friend as they probably should have been for one reason or another. And he does seem like a genuinely decent guy. He's just an idiot. Curiosity killed the cat, I guess. But I love this movie. I love this movie so much. And I've said this a million times. I'll say it again until I'm blue in the face. It is not a remake. Fede Alvarez has said that. Bruce Campbell has said that. This movie was always intended to be followed up on with eventually bringing Ash into the fold with Mia. That's why you get the credits sting. Like that was the plan. Fede Alvarez said this exists in the same universe. That's why the car is there. It exists in that universe. It's not a remake. Stop calling it a remake. It's not a sequel to the previous 3 movies, but there are plenty of franchises where another movie is made, but it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with the events that came before it, but those events still happened. So that's what Evil Dead is. And Evil Dead 2013, I think, is a fucking triumph, dude. Like, I don't know what else to say. This is a perfect 5 out of 5 for me. And let me just say, this is long-winded, guys, but you guys had to listen to Jaden talk about how this movie wasn't that great. So
Yeah.
let me just say, the ending with the abomination and the raining of blood, and I love that final sequence where she says, "I'll swallow your soul," and she says, "Swallow this, motherfucker." Or did she say motherfucker? Yeah, motherfucker.
Yeah.
And just bop, and you get this wide shot with this super loud musical sting of her just gutting this thing. And it is like,
It's pretty awesome.
chef's kiss, perfection. There is nothing I'd change about this movie. Even with Lou Taylor Pucci's dumbass, there is nothing I'd change about this movie. I love this movie.
All right, man. I'm gonna
I
go
give it
3
5.
stars.
What do you give it?
I'm going 3. Listen, dude.
dude.
This is another one like Evil Dead 2, where I think just
You don't
from-
think hard enough.
No. I think I will like this more upon a rewatch. Where I stand right now, it's a 3 because it's right in the middle of like and dislike for me personally. But I don't know. I might dig it next time I watch it. I might do that pretty soon.
Jaden. Jaden.
3 ain't a bad score.
Oh my god, this movie.
It's not a
is
2.
so-
It's not a 2.5. All right, pal. We got one more movie we got to talk about in this franchise.
I don't know if we do.
You're gonna cut the episode here.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, man. So
Hit us. Just you tee us off. You start us
I
with
got
your
you.
thoughts. I'm
I'll-
disappointed right now.
I understand. I apologize. Actually, I don't. Fuck you. But all right, the next Evil Dead movie would come a decade later, 2023, I believe in April, with Evil Dead Rise. Now, I was super excited leading up to this because I didn't see Evil Dead 2013 in theaters, so this was going to be my first Evil Dead movie in the theater. The trailers looked awesome. Everything we were hearing about this movie was great. And yeah, dude, it did not disappoint me. I'll be honest. I think this is by far the best Deadite performance in the entire franchise with the Maggot Mommy. She is fucking brutal. Like the things she says to her children, how creepy she is, her mannerisms, like just perfect casting. I think this is the scariest and most fucked up Deadite that we've had in the entire franchise. The actual human characters, I think, are some of the more fleshed out outside of like a Ash or a Mia in the franchise. Like I like this family. I like that they changed the setting completely to a high rise. It's so different for Evil Dead. It's not in a cabin. But yeah, like the kills are really cool. I do wish there was a little bit more. Like I get when people saw like the cheese grater scene and wanted a little bit more gore from that. 100% agree. But dude, they kill kids in this movie, like a couple of them, and they're not
do.
shy about it. It's pretty cool. Like when movies have the balls to do that.
Someone's gonna clip that.
So yeah, for sure.
But said it was cool.
When filmmakers have the balls to do that in their horror film, I always give it respect if it's done in like a interesting way. And the kid deadites are also pretty fucked up and creepy in this, and I was kind of impressed with their performances as well. Yeah, I will say that the one thing I don't like about this movie is probably what most people don't like, which is the ending with the big weird Call of Duty Black Ops.
I was gonna make a joke.
Oh no!
I think you know what joke I was gonna make.
Yeah,
that's why you don't like it, huh?
Yeah. With the weird Call of Duty Cold War Black Ops 6 zombie boss, like it's just this dumb ball of flesh. It's the worst deadite creature or monster that we've ever had. There's not, like, you kind of take away the top villain of the film that everybody loved and do this weird mix of everything. I didn't love it, but I do love the final two people that survived the movie. I think that's cool, and I'm very excited for the sequel whenever that comes out. But I'll do my rating now. I'm gonna give this 4.5.
Oh, okay. So Evil Dead Rise. Hearing that a new Evil Dead movie was coming and it was going to theaters, no less. Mind you guys, this was going to be straight to streaming, to HBO Max at the time. And the test screenings went so well that Warner Brothers was like, we got to put this in theaters. Like, we have to. People are going to like this. And they did. It made over $150 million. I think it was a good financial decision by them. Jada just texted me. Anyway, so I was excited because I was like, cool, a new Evil Dead movie. I got to be honest with you guys.
Yeah.
I was bummed when I found out that Mia wasn't going to factor into it, because I've said this before with this series, and I mean it. And we'll get to that after this movie, but I feel like they never know when they truly have a good thing. And so Mia turns into this badass final girl, and she's just kind of shelved, and we start a new story. Now, granted, for all of you guys, Jaden mentioned earlier, and I totally blanked on mentioning this. There are 3 books, and Army of Darkness established that. Ashley Williams has one of the books. In Evil Dead 2013, they find another one of the books. And in this one, they find the 3rd book. So all 3 books, that's how all of these movies exist in the same universe. So that was cool. I was accepting of it because I was like, you know what, whatever. I will agree with Jaden. After, no, not even after. Maggot Mommy, yes. She is easily, and I believe Alyssa Sutherland is the woman's name that played her. She is fantastic. She is the best Deadite in this series, period, point blank. You cannot convince me otherwise. There is no better Deadite performance in this series. Yeah. It's also perfect because she's very tall and lanky, which adds to, like, it's just, I don't know, it's creepy. It's like me being a Deadite, like you'd be like, holy shit, Slender Man. Like, she's fantastic. You do get to know the kids more in this movie. I don't remember any of their names, I think, except Danny.
Danny, yep.
Yeah, Danny is the oldest, right?
Yep.
Nell's the little girl. I remember Nell as well. Mm-hmm. You get to know them more. I like the kids in this movie, mostly. I think you get to know them enough to where you care. You may not be in love with them, but you care. And Beth, I really like Beth too. I think that Beth, as the movie goes on, earns her place just like Mia did. Because at the beginning of 2013, Mia was whatever. It's by the end of that movie where you walk away going, okay, she earned it. She earned it. No matter what you think of the movie, like, she earned it. There's some great kills in this movie. I actually like the claustrophobic setting, taking it out of the cabin. I think that the director Lee Cronin really nailed it here.
Mhm.
I was enamored with this movie the first time I watched it. I loved it. Aside from the final act, like you said, the abomination in this movie is supposed to be like this spider creature that's like an amalgamation of all these dead bodies. And I think the reason they didn't show it on screen all that well was probably because they could never get it to look all that believable, because it wasn't a budgetary issue. And you can tell they shoot around it a lot. And when you're going to obscure it, why not change the script a little bit? You know, if you're getting to a point where you feel like you can't put this to screen the way you need to, why not change it a little bit? Because Evil Dead 2013 didn't need anything crazy. It was basically just a demon version of Mia. Like, I mean, but I digress. I loved the movie the first time I saw it. As time has gone on, it's dropped a little bit for me. I think that there are some basic tenets of Evil Dead that I don't know if this movie has. There is no comedy in this movie. Not even like the dark humor that you would even find in Evil Dead 2013. It's a very straightforward film. And as much as I like the claustrophobic setting of this high rise, I also find at times it did hinder the movie too. It's like a love and hate thing. And I love that they killed the kids too. I'm sorry, guys. Fuck them kids. I don't think kids in horror movies are sacred. I'm sorry. No. They're here. They're active participants. They should be able to die too. Yeah. There was. It's so those are some of the cons I have with the movie. And then furthermore, I got to be honest with you. I think that the opening of this movie, while gorgeous and a total throwback to the OG, the acting is pretty bad in the opening in this movie. And it kind of took me out of it. But that title card reveal is one of the best title card reveals I've ever seen. Like,
so good. Yeah.
Ever. So all in all, just like every other Evil Dead movie, I think that it ends up firmly in very good territory. I don't think there's any Evil Dead movie that isn't very good. And Evil Dead Rise is one of those for me too. It's a 4 out of 5. I put it right on par with the OG and with Army of Darkness. But if you guys noticed with those 3 movies, the reason I have them at 4 instead of 5 is because they're missing certain elements that I harped on with 2013 and Evil Dead 2. That I feel like those 2 movies found a more perfect marriage. Now, Evil Dead 2013, very much more straightforward horror than Evil Dead 2. But again, I think it was modernizing the film, modernizing the IP at that time in that way, I think was the right way to go. And I just think it worked. And Mia definitely helps that. But Evil Dead Rise is one that, I'd give it 4. And so here we are. These are all the live action movies to date. And over the last year and a half, 2 years, we've gotten 2 announcements of 2 standalone stories. Well, one of them is a standalone story, and one of them is just another Evil Dead movie. We don't know if it's a sequel to Rise. We have no idea. Yeah. One of them is being directed by the guy that did that Spider movie. What's that called? Infested, yeah. Yeah. Now, before I get your thoughts on this, I just want to say, the fact that they announced his movie is going to be another standalone movie in the series pisses me off. I'm just gonna put it out there. It pisses me off. And it pisses me off because you end Ash's arc with and we'll talk about Ash versus Evil Dead, guys, don't worry. But at the time you ended it with Army of Darkness, and then you restart 20 years later with Evil Dead 2013. You introduce Mia, everybody likes Mia, the movie makes a lot of money, is well received, and then Mia's gone. You introduce Beth and Maggot Mommy, makes a lot of money, very well received, and then the next announcement is another new standalone movie. Yeah. At what point is this series going to realize maybe we should build off of these previous movies and these previous characters that people have become endeared to? Frustrates the hell out of me, but I want to know your thoughts on that.
I definitely understand that. I think the way that they're trying to write it off is because this one is technically a spin-off, but I don't know, dude. An Evil Dead spin-off is a little interesting to me because we've never really had that, and this franchise is very underutilized, so we don't even have that many movies in general. So I guess I'm for it. And seeing that film infested by the filmmaker made me more interested because I think that movie is pretty creepy, and I can kind of see how this dude could make an Evil Dead film. Um, but I really got to see it to be sure. I think it's supposed to come out next year. We don't really know. It's called Evil
It
Dead
hasn't even
Burn.
started shooting yet.
Yeah, so it could be 2027 or later, but I do like the
They
name.
could turn it around. They could turn it around in enough time. I'm not necessarily worried about that. What I'm worried about is, just like I said, where are we going with this?
Yeah.
Like what's the deal here? It's just frustrating. But
think
before we go, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I think a sequel that you could do is having the 3 different timelines come together, but that's been so oversaturated in franchises in general, and I
don't
just
give
think
a shit. People are eating that, but they're still eating it up. Jaden,
I know.
Avengers Doomsday. No one gives a shit about Phase 4 of Marvel, but as soon as Avengers Doomsday comes out, it's gonna make $1 billion. You want to know why? Because a bunch of these characters are getting together again, and audiences just eat that shit up. But I want to address Ash versus Evil Dead, and then we'll talk more about the future of the franchise and give our franchise ranking in the end of this. So Ash versus Evil Dead gets greenlit in the late 2010s or mid 2010s, and it goes to Stars. And have you watched all 3 seasons?
I haven't.
Okay.
I've seen bits and pieces of the first 2.
So I'll just give my overall thoughts. I loved this show. I remember I had DirecTV at the time. I was spending like $300 a month on DirecTV. It was absolute robbery, highway robbery. But me and my buddy Dave, we lived together. Just as friends, guys, don't worry. No, we had 2 other roommates too. The 4 of us all lived together. And Dave and I would watch Ash versus Evil Dead every week when it premiered. It was like our thing. We were so excited. Our other 2 roommates didn't give a shit. And I was so happy to see Ash back. And I couldn't believe like this was a thing. I was like, this is insane.
Yeah.
And I think it had the charm, the wit, the action, the gore. I loved Pablo. I loved Kelly. Like, I really, really, really dug this show. And then, of course, as was common at the time and still is common, people torrented the shit out of this show. And the ratings tanked. And they had already written season 3, and they were in production on season 3 when Stars was like, we're not doing another one. So they had to wrap it up when they weren't planning to wrap it up in season 3. They didn't have it written that way.
Yeah.
And let me just say, it shows in season 3. By the time you get to the finale, it is a very lackluster season. They clearly had one more season planned, and they had to wrap it up, and it wasn't ready. Yeah. And it's a bummer, but there's still enough good about season 3, even if it's just having Ash back again, that I didn't hate it. But season 1 and season 2 are great. And I loved this show. And if you guys have, for the life of me, I can't remember what the box set is called, but I have it. It's the big one that slides out. It has Ash versus Evil Dead in it as well. If you guys don't have that set, pick it up. I'll try to put a link to it down below in the description. It's a gorgeous set. But the show is definitely well worth your time, especially if you are a fan of the character of Ash and that world that Sam Raimi built, because it truly does feel like a continuation of those first 3 movies until the 3rd season. And that's when everything went to shit. But I mean, what you saw of it, what did you think of what you saw?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of gave off like that first season of Chucky vibe for me, where like I did like the comedy. I was very happy to see these characters back just in this form. And it's a cozy show. Like I'm definitely looking forward to watching it fully, because I've only seen episodes from the first 2 seasons. I haven't actually watched them in full, and I never saw season 3. But from what I watched, I would just watch it late night as I was going to bed, and I enjoyed what I saw. I want to ask you though, I feel like I've heard this, was there something with like an apocalypse or something in the last season?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and it basically Deadites are like taking over the world. There's like this giant like skeleton Deadite, if I'm remembering correctly, that is really bad CGI, and like it gets to a point. It really does in that third season where you're like, we're jumping the shark. If I had to rate each season, I'd say season 1, that's probably like 4.5. Season 2, 4.5. Love both those seasons. Season 3, 2.5. So overall, I'll give he can't rate it, guys. So I'll give it, because I know some of you guys that are completists like me, you were going to be upset if I didn't mention it. I'll give Ash versus Evil Dead 4 out of 5. I still think those first 2 seasons are so good that it outweighs the lackluster third season. And also, I give them leeway with that third season because they literally had to change that on the fly mid-production because the studio was like, we're pulling the plug. And we've seen that happen with movies throughout decades. Like it will absolutely hamper the final product. It just does.
For sure.
But yeah, it's solid. And then, so here we are, Jaden. About 2 years ago, Jane Levy replied to a tweet on Twitter, back when it was Twitter and not, whatever. Someone was like, you need to do more horror. And she quoted it and said, "Oh, I am," or something like that. I still have the screenshot on my phone because when I saw it, I was like, what the fuck? And because everybody knew she famously was like, I'm done with horror. And Ghost House Pictures retweeted her tweet. Ghost House is Sam Raimi's production house. They do Evil Dead. And I was like, whoa, wait. And this was right after Evil Dead Rise came out. Mind you,
I remember.
Who was on the promotional tour for Evil Dead Rise? None other than Jane Levy. He was on the promotional tour, taking pictures with the leads of this new movie. Yeah, it was weird. They were saying the women of Evil Dead and everything like that. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Well, then, not long after that, Jane Levy posted a picture to her Instagram story of her wearing an Evil Dead shirt. And she put the caption, "Felt fitting for today, ... And I was like, yo. So I reached out to Brad Miska at Bloody Disgusting. And I was like, Brad, there's got to be some fire to this smoke. And he was like, yes, that's what we're hearing. And I was like, no fucking way, dude. She's going to come back. We're going to give Mia and Beth in a movie. And then Jane Levy deleted that tweet. And I didn't know what that meant, if anything. And then Jane Levy got pregnant. And Jane Levy just had a baby not long ago. And so I was sitting here wondering, like, did things fall through? No, I don't think that was the case. So then what happened here? I think this second Evil Dead movie that they haven't given us any details on, that they haven't, mind you, this one from the guy from Infested, they put, when they announced it, it was a standalone movie in the series. This second one they announced, they've given us no details on it. Yeah. Also, it took a while for them to announce that one. I'm starting to go, is this going to be the one where they like merge? Is it, and that's why we don't have any details on it? I don't know, but I can tell you guys with 100% certainty, Jane Levy was in talks to come back before she got pregnant. I know that for a fact. And she was dropping the hints on social media. Like, it was very clear. But I also don't want to get anybody too excited. Bruce Campbell will not be a part of it. When he says that he's hung up the chainsaw, he has. That's over and done with. If Jane Levy comes back, it's going to be to merge her and Beth's worlds. It's not going to be the three of their worlds merging. Which, you know what? Bruce is in his, 70s now? I'm cool with it. Yeah. Like, I'm cool with it. He gave us decades in this series, with Ash versus Evil Dead in the first 3 movies. Let him retire in peace. But Beth and Mia, I'm down. What do you think?
Yeah, man, I'd totally be down to see that. I hope it happens. I'm kind of tired of these modern iterations of horror franchises, like these sequels kind of just not happening. Or, like, I feel like it's happened with Evil Dead. It took a while for Predator to, like, it just got announced, like, last year that they were actually actively making one. Like, it felt like those 2 years in between was like agony. Then you see Hellraiser and Texas Chainsaw, and those are taking forever. I really hope it happens, because Evil Dead is a franchise that deserves more movies. And as you said, it's pretty consistent. Like, Evil Dead 2013 is not my favorite, but I can't say it's a bad movie because it's just not. I think they're all really good movies. But we'll see. I mean, this shit could come out in like 2030. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think my thing personally, when it comes to like the merging of the worlds and stuff, I think if you're going to merge two worlds, 2013 and Rise work perfectly. I think tonally they're very similar. I think Beth and Mia, in a lot of ways, are very similar characters. I just think that would work. Like, it wouldn't even stretch believability. Like, you just have to find a way, and it wouldn't be hard at this point, because, I mean, you would have to imagine after these experiences, one of them would track down somebody else that has experienced the same thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't seem far-fetched at all. I'm hoping that's what the second movie that they've announced but haven't given details on is, because that's what I want. I think that's what a lot of fans want. Like, I know that you're not someone that's in love with 2013, but I know the general sentiment is that most people are, and specifically most people love Mia. Like, they really want to see her come back. And I just think if you deprive the fans of that, especially if Jane is like up for it, like, what are we doing here? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's going back to what I said about my frustration with Evil Dead as a whole. Like, if that doesn't happen, I actually will be really pissed off, because for the last 15 years, that's all this series has talked about. Merging worlds. First it was Ash and Mia, then it was Ash, Beth, and Mia, then it was Mia and Beth. Like, just do it already. Like, stop having conversations, stop dropping breadcrumbs, just do it. Like, it's just frustrating. Like, it really is. And I hope that is what's coming down the pipeline. But before we give our ranking of the franchise and bid you adieu, I would be remiss if I did not mention Evil Dead the game. And Jaden, I bought this game the day it came out. Actually, it was one of the last things my ex-wife did for me. She left me about a week later, but she bought me this game. And I was so excited. Came home, I played that shit. I maxed out every character. Played so much that I had done everything I could with every character. I became a freaking baller at the game. Kept telling Christian to get it. By the time he finally got it, I was like, dude, I'm already done with it. Like, I've done everything I can in the game. But thanks for waiting, dick. But I really think that this game was super fun. And if I could, and sadly, it was announced earlier this week that they're shutting it down. The servers for the game are being shut down after 3 years. But again, it makes sense. I mean, they're not doing anything new with the game. If you're a player like I was of it, you probably have done all you can. And you're like, there's not even really a point in playing anymore. And it's disappointing, but if you guys like Dead by Daylight and you never played Evil Dead, you missed out. Because Evil Dead was Dead by Daylight, except you got to fight back. And that was the thing that I hated the most about Dead by Daylight, was the helplessness of like, I can only run and try to dodge, but I can't fight back or use a flashlight. Whoop-de-fucking-do. No, in Evil Dead, you can find big ass weapons. You can fuck these people up that are playing as the demons, or you can play as the demons. Super, super fun game. Did you ever play it?
I did, yeah. I see. I have Nick on Xbox, and I remember seeing him like every day playing this, so I know he's not bullshitting. But yeah, I got this launch day as well. It is a good game for what it is. I think my problem is that when there's a big horror property, they just immediately want to turn it into a live service Dead by Daylight clone. And it's kind of a bummer, because you look at a game like Alien Isolation, which uses an IP and is a single player, incredible story, great horror game. I would rather see that than these games that are inevitably going to die and you're not going to be able to play them anymore. Like, I'm just not a big fan of live service games, and I feel like people don't get creative with horror IP. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's as good as Friday the 13th, but it's better than Killer Clowns for these kinds of games. Visually, it looks great. Dead by Daylight looks like shit. It looks like Dookie, dude. It's like a PS3 game. But
isn't it bullshit too that you can't really do anything in Dead by Daylight?
Yeah.
Like, It always pissed me off. Sure, if you run as a killer, like, more power to you. That's great. Maybe you're great as a killer. I never played as a killer. Like, I wanted to be the survivor because that's more exciting, but I wanted to be able to fight back. And you can't in Dead by Daylight.
Yeah. I do hope that someday we get like a single player story game for Evil Dead instead of this, because it does suck that you're not going to be able to play it anymore after this year. Oh, Texas Chainsaw happened too. I forgot about that game. That's like
but that game came and went too. It was like the same thing. I played it for a month or so, and then I was like, all right, I've done pretty much everything I can do.
Yeah, and it's like $10 now, and it's probably going to get shut down next year. So
Yep.
It's unfortunate. That's just
it makes you worry about the Halloween game that they say they're making right now, because it's probably going to be the same fucking thing. Like,
yeah, I know.
So but if you guys haven't played it, I don't know how much it is on the store right now. Jaden, do you know? Probably like $15, I'd imagine.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's more than like 30, maybe. Like it's got to be 30 or under, I'd imagine. But
download it, play it before the server gets shut down, guys. If you're an Evil Dead fan, because it was made for Evil Dead fans. Like, it really was. It never had the broad appeal like Dead by Daylight did, because Dead by Daylight was able to not be directly tied to any one property, and so a lot of normies could come into it and be like, oh, I know that's Scream. Ghostface, you dumb motherfuckers. But like, yes. And my brother's one of those people to be like, yeah, dude, I played a Scream. And I'm like, oh God, I hate you. Whereas like a game like Texas Chainsaw Massacre or a game like Evil Dead, they were made for the fans of those properties. So play it while you still have a chance, because I do think if you're a fan, you'll get a couple weeks of enjoyment out of it. You really, really will. Leveling up all your characters, getting better at the games. You can explore these maps. These maps are huge. I mean, they're huge. Yeah, they are. You can find so much. It's a lot. It's not like Dead by Daylight either, where you can just get tunneled. Like, I hate that more than anything, when a killer decides they're going to tunnel you. Like, it's just like, you're toxic as fuck. Like, I hate you. And I hope you shit your pants. So Jaden, that's all we have right now when it comes to, material items in the Evil Dead franchise. And we've talked about the future of the series, what we want to see and what's been announced so far. So without further ado, I want you to give us your ranking of the Evil Dead movies from least favorite to favorite.
All right, man. It should come as no surprise. At the bottom for me is Evil Dead 2013. I don't think it's bad. It's just not my favorite. It doesn't have like enough of interesting characters or interesting deadites for me as Evil Dead Rise. It doesn't.
Yeah, dude, Mia sucks.
Well, Mia's good, but the others. But anyways, that's gonna be my last place one. After that, I'm gonna go Evil Dead 2. But 4-star film for me. I still love it. It's just over these next two, I prefer the original, because 3 for me is the original The Evil Dead. I just think it's a creepier, darker version of what we get in 2, which I personally dig more. I think the Deadites are, although I like Henrietta, I think the Deadites are just so disturbing and haunting in that original film. Next up would be Evil Dead Rise. Evil Dead Rise is my number 2. I love this movie so much. It may change upon a rewatch, like you, I'm not sure, but as I stand right now, it's still like, I think the perfect Deadite performance. I think the setting is really cool and different. And the human characters actually feel fleshed out a little bit for me. But number 1, Army of Darkness. Just so much fun. Like, so cartoony. I can't say a bad thing about this movie, honestly. Like, it's just, I think it's pretty flawless as a slapstick comedy with horror elements. But that's my ranking.
So uncivilized.
If she breathes, he's a god!
Happy May the 4th.
All right. So now I'll give you guys the real ranking of the Evil Dead films. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just giving Jaden a hard time. If you guys actually think I'm mean to Jaden, I'm not. You should see our texts, okay? He's mean to me. But anyway, so I'm not going to include Ash versus Evil Dead in here. It's different. Although I did give my rating. If I had to put it in here, I would probably put it. I'd probably put it second to last, but I'm going to leave it out. So my least favorite at number 5, and this pains me to say because, like I said, these are all great movies to me, is the original The Evil Dead. I'm sorry, Mark. It is absolutely true that this is probably the scariest. It's absolutely true that this movie is a feat in and of itself, what they were able to accomplish. But I don't think they hit the ground running yet. There was more to be fleshed out there, and I don't think it happened in the first movie. That's through no fault of their own, but it is what it is. Coming in at number 4 is going to be Evil Dead Rise. Now, I did go back and forth about whether I was going to put Rise behind the original. I think the thing that takes this one, I take this one over the original, is Maggot Mommy. I think that there is no singular Deadite moment, let alone performance in the original film, that I think measures up to Alyssa Sutherland in Evil Dead Rise. There just isn't. So I go Evil Dead Rise at 4. At number 3, I'm going to do Army of Darkness. Army of Darkness, being the third movie in the series, it's also my third favorite. It is smack dab in the middle. I think if it would have leaned a little bit more into horror, this could probably challenge for the second spot. It really could. I love the zany. I love the slapstick. I love this movie. But it still wasn't the perfect blend of what Evil Dead is to me. Now, for years, I have said over and over again, I was about to make an announcement on here and change my ranking, but I don't think I can. I really don't think. Yes, I can. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Evil Dead 2. For the longest time, this has been my favorite one. It has been. But in recent years, and I didn't let on about this at the beginning because I had been struggling with this the entire recording of this. That beginning portion of the movie is enough for me to be like, it's not the best Evil Dead movie. It's just not. Like, everything after the unnecessary recap, I think, is peak Evil Dead. It's funny. It's scary. It's insane. But yeah, the fucking recap. This was my favorite for the longest time. But I cannot deny myself any longer. I'm coming out of the Evil Dead closet. Number 1 is Evil Dead 2013. I think that this movie reigns supreme in this series. Because although it doesn't have some of the insane comedy that Evil Dead 2 does, it has the comedy in a scary way, in an uncomfortable way. There's comedy in this movie. There's the best lead performance. I'm going to say Mia is the best. I'm sorry. She's not the best character, I don't think, but I think Jane Levy gives the best performance of any of our heroes or heroines in this entire series. I really do think she does. I think that the climax of this movie, I don't even think anyone can argue, is the best climax in the Evil Dead franchise. Period. Bar none. She's in the fucking shack. When that machete comes through and slices her thigh and then slowly gets pulled across every single time, I'm like, oh, fuck. When she's crawling up through the hole and it turns around and the fucking abomination is there and it's like, Mia. I'm like, dude, I'm shitting my pants right here. There is so much about this movie that is fantastic. I'm not denying it anymore. Evil Dead 2013 is not only my favorite Evil Dead movie, I think it's the best Evil Dead movie. And it would take a Herculean effort to overtake this movie. I love this franchise, and I hope they keep just shooting out bangers, No movie that is less than pretty damn good. And we'll be great. I'll be happy. I'll walk away from every Evil Dead movie going, great. But you can't touch the perfection that is Evil Dead 2013. And Jaden, I just want to let you know, and all the listeners of my channel know, this is the first time I have ever changed my ranking of this series. This is the first time. I have battled this for years. And I am finally ready to say it. Yeah, you know what? 2013 is the best. Fight me. I don't give a shit.
I respect it, brother. Listen, we're all about, you and I have different hot takes and we piss people off, but yeah, I'm glad you changed it. Stick with your heart.
It was my heart. It was my wiener. I just listened. You know, I just listened to what these things were telling me, and I knew where I had to go. And you know, it's not a path meant for everyone, but it was a path meant for me, and I'm glad to walk it. And there you guys have it.
There
you guys have it. 5 movies, a television show that we briefly touched on, and a video game that we briefly touched on, and still almost an hour and a half long episode. You want to know why? Because I got going with the motor mouth. Because this is a series I know and I love. And I love to talk, which is why I want to talk about Nightmare. But Jaden is, I don't know. But before we go, before Jaden gives you the sign off, we want to let you guys know that next week's episode, in preparation H, for a long-awaited movie, almost a decade and a half since the last one, we will be covering the Final Destination series. And I don't have to go back and rewatch any of these movies because I just did like 2 months ago. Even the 4th one, which is dog shit. So I'll just preview my thoughts on that right now.
Yeah.
So look forward to Final Destination next week. Jaden, what do you got to say to the people before we sign off?
Before we sign off, I want to ask you a question real quick.
Yes.
So we're covering Final Destination next week, and I'm very excited. Do you want to
make
either...
Out? It depends. Oh, no, go
We're
ahead.
going to do that regardless.
No. Go.
Do you want to, like, do a ranking as we usually do at the end of the episode? Do you want to save it for the week after we've seen this new one, and have that within the ranking and do it at the end of the next week's episode?
How would you Jaden, I thought we were going to wait till 6 came out, and then we were going to record it that weekend.
Yeah, that wouldn't be next weekend. Next week, then that'd be the week after, right? May 16th.
Well, tomorrow's Monday. It'll come out a week from Thursday, and I'm going to see it that Thursday night.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll match you. Yeah, we'll do that then for sure.
So it'll be next weekend that you guys will get the next episode, but that's because we want to cover Bloodlines in it.
Yeah.
And we want to give you a ranking of all 6 movies.
For sure.
But that's what we're going to do. And I'm excited because this is a franchise that deserves to go back to the big screen. It just does.
Yeah.
I've missed it. It traumatized me. It traumatized generations of people. And I can't wait to see how this movie's going to traumatize me. I genuinely cannot wait.
Dude, it's an IMAX. I'm so ready. That's gonna be so much
IMAX.
fun.
I mean IMAX. Yeah, I'm actually gonna see it in IMAX. I am.
Hell yeah, me too.
Yeah, they say if you see it in IMAX, there's dudes all around you just jerking off while you're watching it. So
yeah, dude. It's
wild
great.
times. But look, guys, if you guys liked this episode, leave a like on it. Even if you didn't watch more than a minute, but you want to support me and Jaden, leave a like on it. If you want to join in on the conversation, you know where to do it. Down there in the comment section where I am liable to argue with you or agree with you about how Jaden's wrong. Whatever it is, I want to hear down below. We want to hear down below. I want you to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You know, we're closing in on 7,500. My goal by the end of this year is to break 10K, and I think I can. So let's keep it going. Let's keep this train rolling. The viewership of the podcast has been improving slowly. We had that one episode at the beginning that exploded, but the average watch time was like 2.5 minutes. So I don't know if it was something I put in the title where the algorithm was like, wait, what? And then people clicked and they're like, this is like an hour and a half long. Fuck that. But I don't care. The viewership has been improving. So cool. The average viewer duration is healthy, hanging around 30 minutes. That's great. On average, that's fantastic. So sound off down below, guys. Follow us on social media. Jaden said that on X/Twitter, it is Podgoblins, right? At Podgoblins?
Correct. Yeah.
And then on Instagram, it is PodgoblinsYT.
Yep.
I'm going to make it a point. We're going to be more active in that space because if we want the show to really branch out, we need to do that. I'm also, this week, you guys have my word, I am going to be putting all of these episodes, because I've been seeing the comments, on audio platforms. I will be doing that this week, so be on the lookout for that. So before we go, do you have anything else, Jaden, or do you just want to blow them a kiss, blow their ball, and say bye?
Listen, go follow the socials, but I just want to say we got some really cool stuff in the pipeline. There are some franchises coming out this summer that we're going to talk about. There's a specific date in June, which if you guys look at the calendar, you can probably guess what we're going to be talking about there. I think this is going
High
to be
School
a good year.
Musical. Let's go.
Let's go. Can't wait. No, it's been fun doing this podcast. I'm really happy with how it's gone. And we've gotten some great comments. We got a good fan base, and I think it's just going to get better as time goes on. And I think this year is going to be really good. But that's all.
That's right. So, through the highs and the lows, we thank all of you guys. We look forward to seeing you next week with Final Destination. Again, you know where to find us. You know what to do. Stay good. Stay horny. We'll see you next week.